Thank you. As Mark said, my name is Eduardo Piairo. It's a different name that you used to see. I'm an operations engineer at Basecon. I'm also one of the founders of DevOps in my hometown, Porto, and also a friend of Redgate. And today I'll be talking about the deployment pipeline for database. So I'm kind of skipping the testing part since Alex already covered it. So I will give more an overview about the deployment pipeline in order to also to deal with database changes. The second topic will be database challenge and the stages, and I will present some scenarios that I found out, and I will wrap up the session. So, first thing, when we try to set up a pipeline for database or even for software, I think that we have to keep in mind is each step, each input, output will be the output of the next step. What this means is each decision you took in each stage will influence the next step. So if you take the decision to go to migrations, your CI will be done in a way, not in a different way. And your release will be impacted by that. So you take more or less, you take decisions from left to right. Okay, so that is one. The second one is your pipeline is your path for happiness. So it's what between an idea and a real thing on production. So I have to look to the pipeline and try to understand what I need to do, or when I say I say as a team or as a developer, I need to understand what I need to do to put my code or my change in the beginning of the pipeline, and how that change get to the production environment. So what steps that change will have to contemplate? I'll identify the three. It's easy. Source control it, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. First, I need to say what I need to change. I need to describe my change. Second, I need to validate that change in order to don't break what I have done. And third, I need to implement that change. In software or in application world, it's easy to accept this, right? It's not, I would say everyone do application or software like this at the application level. The question is why database is not included. Someone wants to answer? Please. What is the big difference between application and the database that forces to treat them differently from the application? Data. And I asked a special person to try to answer why database is so special. So it's about data. If your system is down, or if your app have a bug, you will have annoyed customers. If your app is down, your system is down, you are losing money. But if you lose data, you lose not only money but also reputation. You can close your business when you lose data. So this fear of losing data normally takes for two common paths. One, it's treated database different in a different pipeline. A special pipeline. Some of that you have some manual steps, or the second one, the worst, database is not included. You have a database or a database team that do all the work and you don't care. That's why in the previous talks they call it the database, the DBA power. But because everyone has afraid to change the database. So it don't need to be like that. So when I'm talking about manual work, it means it's the worst kind of work. It's expensive because you take a lot of time. It's risky because you will make mistakes. And as soon as you're done, you forgot what you did. So the next week, when the system is down, it's crashed, you don't remember what you changed that caused it. So you are working like without memory. You don't have traceability. In database, that is a key factor. You need to know what is changing. And of course, if you are doing manual steps, it's really hard to get CI and CD. I wouldn't say it's impossible. Someone could do that, but it's very, very hard. So, how many is anybody DBA? Okay. How many times a developer said it's the database fault or its performance? I don't know what is the problem. Normally we have the testing pyramid. It's someone is testing the UI and it's kind of slow, and someone says, "Oh, probably it's the database. It's slow." So database, it's easy to blame database. So it's coming bottlenecks. For example, if a developer wants a new field on the login, the middle name, he have to ask to the database, to the DBA, a new column. You become a bottleneck because in the development, it have to wait for that change first on database, and then you can push the code for the app side. So how we solve this gap between the app and the database world? The answer is easy. It appears to be easy. We automate what we can. So if we can automate all things, cool. So what we gain with automation? We stop doing different things manually, and we start to do the same thing, but in the automatic way, in scripting. So we enforce a process, a standard. So by doing that way, we are gaining some consistency. And we are taking the power back. So we are improving our reliability. With that, we start to gain some speed. And as a bonus, we get some rid of human intervention. It's also cool. So we start with a learn and relearn to do stuff and forget and pass to improve and forget it. Because I have to say, as a good ops guy, I'm being humble now. As a good ops guy, I'm kind of lazy and the lack of memory. So I like to script and put it away and just pick it when I need it. So I put all the scripts put in the pipeline. So automation will get rid of the fear that everyone have about the database changes. Let me tell you, in my team, we don't have a DBA. So everyone is responsible for changing and maintain the database and the code. So in fact, we are accountable for all the system, the team. But that is possible. Why? Why that is possible? Because we share a fundamental resource. It's code. Everyone understands the code. We talk the same language. In the database case, it's a SQL script. If it's code, it's a C# class or file, whatever. But this is what allows to understand, have the same language. So the plan, we already take a decision, we should automate even for database. So let's let's write the scripts, because as you see, if you want to change the database, you have to write the script. Why don't you save that script and put it on source control? So that is the next step. Source control will give us traceability. So with traceability, I will be able to answer the question, what changed, when it was changed, and who changed it. Because sometimes when a problem hits in, you will really need to answer that questions. And that's how we can do the things. Also, if it's enforced, SQL becomes your documentation. You don't need to write a post on a Confluence or on a wiki about the change. You just script it on the SQL, and you can even put comments. And you start to share your code base. So in fact, you are sharing your knowledge, you are enforcing standards inside the team or across the organization. So that's a bonus. And another decision, the second decision we need to do is how we handle the scripts. Should I go to a state approach or a migration approach? So in the state, I have to compare different states and generate the difference and apply that difference. In the migration, I write the change. So this is from Alex, for your post. It's still my favorite. So in the state, I say how the database should be. And the migration is how the database should change. Question is, what is the best approach? And the only correct answer would be depends. Because it depends on what your needs, the way you work. It's clear the difference between the two approaches? Yeah? Okay, so, and my favorite one, I have to say, because I have more experience on this one, on migrations. I am more a migrations fan, because allows me to share knowledge between the team on scripts. So in this way, does anyone use or know Flyway? Okay. It's open source, it's written in Java. I use the CMD version to put on the pipeline. So I was saying what is my personal preference is it is written in you can script the migrations in SQL, and it's really easy to automate. It's very you just put it there. You don't need to configure anything. It's amazing, and also migrations give more power to the who is writing. Okay, the best. Of course, I use both in different occasions. So sometimes I need to compare states. I need if I have 10 cases of scripts, it's unmanageable. So I do a baseline. I use migration. I use state approach in that way. So I do cycle time. So I try to reduce the work. So I come with while I'm working on this mainly as an accidentally database DBA, I gather some guidelines. I didn't want to call it rules, but it's kind of are rules. So the rule and the idea is one script can contain only one operation type. So I can only create, I can only update, I can only delete, and so on, for one type of object for the database. I will explain why I have these rules. And the purpose is clear. It's keep the script, in this case, a migration script, as small as possible. Because why? I'm just reducing the merge surface conflicts. Because if you are working in a team of 5 elements or 7 elements and they all live in the same building, they are able to talk with each other and say, hey, I'm working on this table, please don't change it. But if it is a shared database inside your organization, you will not speak with all the teams that is working on that table. You don't know. So we have to have a process. You have to merge it. So also, if you cut down the changes that you have to do on a database in small pieces, you start to see patterns. Like Matrix, you start being a geek, so you start seeing changes coming to your database. And normally, since every business is guided by rules, concrete rules, you start to see patterns of the database change. And also this advantage I will show up, because what we did, or what I achieved with this, I put so small scripts that when I do a Git, or on a Git, I put the right button of the mouse, when I see history, I only see one event. It was the creation of that file. So you don't see what's happening for that database object. So I will see what this means in the demo time. Okay, but these are made by me, so it's from the experience. Okay, but the purpose, the main idea is keep it small as possible. Of course, you have the downside. So imagine you have one big script, one big migration, you can change all the database. So, and what I did to the team, I said, okay, instead of doing that, why we have to cut this in tiny pieces? So instead you have 100 objects on the script, I will have 100 scripts. Of course, the guys were not happy with that. But in the end, what I did is, okay, you keep it with your 100-line script, and you start to merge it. And then they feel the pain, and we started to do little pieces. Okay, I will explain, I will show how this works. So about integration. So unit testing and integration test, I don't know if we can do at this level, but Alex also already covered this point. But some considerations we have to take into account is what should be tested and when. Before the deployment, during the deployment, or after. And can the application help on this? Why I say this? I'm working at Basecon. We don't have business logic on a database. So I came from a business where every single business logic is one database in the form of stored procedures. Okay? And I thought that this was normal. That's the way we do it. And when I came to Basecon, they don't have stored procedures. They even don't have views. They only have tables. And I say, whoa, what happened? And they have all the logic at the application side. So the question is, how can I, that way, database is just for storing data. So that's why we need to know what we need, and maybe, so if I go in this scenario, what should I take unit testing? So unit testing in this context, in my current context, would be if this table exists. But I don't need to test it business logic, because it's also covered, it's already covered on application. And that changed my opinion about business, how to deal with business rules. So now, from now on, please keep your business logic at the application level. As the same, keep the data on the database, not on application. I already saw some things like that. So yeah, I also started to use T-SQL-T. It's a new one called Slacker, not Slack, the Slacker, SSDT, and I started also use someone, I don't remember now, but I was to write unit tests using a wiki. It was fitness. Yes, it was based on fitness, yeah. But once again, it was not a good idea, because if you go into a team and you say have to do unit testing or source control in a different language, they will not be very happy with you. Okay, deployment moment. We want to deliver a change to the target environment. We have to take some considerations. The downtime that we will have, the time to recover. Of course, small batches, it's always a good idea. And also what we are affecting. So at present moment, we are taking a microservice approach. So that means at this moment, each service has its own database. So when I stop the database, I only affect a service. Okay? So if I share the database with more applications, when I stop the database, I will affect a lot of applications. If I have only one, the master database, a big database, if I stop or for a backup, then I will stop my business. Okay? That is some things that we have to consider, but we cannot consider this only on this context, on this part. You have to see the all point. Okay? Okay, so what happened when the deployment fails? The question is where it fails. It was database, it was application side. And when it fails at database level, we need to know where it fails. Did we already only update data? We affected data, we affected database object. We have to see, but we have to, as I see, we have two major options. So the backup approach, it's the safer but the slower. So every time you go to make a deploy, you first make a backup. But if you have a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte database, that can be a challenge. Rollback. In the other end, we have rollback or roll forward scripts. I don't like the way scripts are seen like rollback. For me, it's very confusing to work backwards. So if I have a problem with database, I just write a script just to rolling forward to fix that problem. So does anyone try something like Liquid Base or Fluent Migrator? They have an ability to, you can write the migration on top and the rollback down. So when you are writing the migration, you have to think what happened, what I have to do if I need to roll back. In some cases, it's impossible to foresee. It's so complex you cannot just do it. So once again, is to take the last worst options that you have. Okay, moving on. And about scenarios. The first one, just to go back to the past. I used to work with the database was completely outside, it was manual. The first step was to bring a pipeline for the database. So that was my first step because we didn't to impact the application lifecycle. So we set up a pipeline for the database. But this was an improvement, a huge improvement. But what happened is, as independent pipelines, they have to synchronize. And by synchronizing, I say people have to talk with each other. And as everyone knows, we are really bad by communicating. I remember to ask things through email, to align versions. Okay, this was the first approach that we did. I don't know if it's anyone's scenario, but please raise your hand if it is. It's okay. The second one, and a second experimentation is, okay, how do we avoid the synchronization? So the touching point between app and database, it was the continuous delivery moment. So each one, it has different repos. They do different integration tests, testing and validation, and in the end, they get together and deploy it. But still, doesn't mean what we get. It was this point we get the latest version of each component. Doesn't mean that it was the correct one. If the database, if a DBA forgot or didn't have time to include the change that the application needed, it's going to break anyway. Talking about breaking, a nice one. Testing is also a nice way to establish a contract between application and the database. The third and most exotic, I don't know if this exists, but it was a kind of experimentation. It was like this. So app and database, it live in different code repos, but in somehow we made the build part dependent on the success of the other. So you mean, if I failed to build my database, if I failed to validate, I didn't have to start the application CI process. So does anyone doing like this? I don't know. It just wants a curiosity. And this is my current stage. This is my day-by-day scenario. So I have my app and my database on the same, sharing the same pipeline, sharing the same code repo, sharing the same continuous integration process and the same continuous delivery. So it's the same pipeline. We don't have a need to synchronize. We just look at the pipeline and see the results if everything went well. And it promotes learning. So nowadays, we can do code reviews for database. So I commit, I push a change for a table, and someone will have to review that change. So it's like treating database as code. So it is a great, it's a great way to work, because the other side have to understand better how the application works. Also, when someone just push code to the C#, I have to sometimes I go there and start to try to review that code. That's a great way to sharing learning and knowledge. So I'll do the demo right now. I just share. So my demo, it's a setup of the pipeline for the SQL Server and the Azure database. So about that rule, so I'm using GitHub. So my pipeline is I have GitHub, I have VSTS for building, and Octopus for deploy. And also, I should have package management, but I really think it's very important package managing the between each cycle. But for this demo, I didn't put it. So, okay, let me just open this. So this is it's the scenario number 4, where everything is together. So this is a REST API. I asked a friend in the team to write some API that just go get something to the database. So I'm not developer, I have to ask some help. So in the source, I have the C# stuff, and then I have Flyway. In the Flyway, I have SQL scripts, okay? And let me just, okay. Oops, so, sorry. About that rule, so timestamp versioning. So I really think it's important because it gives you the context, the temporal context that you need to do some things like, do you remember that change you put it on the database last week? Oh, no. But if it was yesterday, it's easy because I know when it happened. The second one is an update. It's the operation type. I say the object type by saying this is a table, a view, and the name. Okay? And inside, so these rules is a mix between naming conventions for the script and the content of the script. So this is just an update. Okay. Another insert. But the cool thing is, if someone comes to me and say, what happened to the table member? You don't have the column that I wrote last week. So I will go and say, please let me check. And I have all the history of change of that object. Okay? Because if I go to source control, the history won't show me 1, 2 changes on that script because they are so small. Okay? And then, not this, but this. And this is the GitHub. This is the definition. Okay? So, in my local machine, it's a SQL 17, yes, it's empty. And in my Azure, I have it here, my resource group, it's empty. So what I will do is start a build on this. And while it's building, we can talk about this part. Not this, but so REM templates. So since I'm using we are working on a platform and service approach, we don't not only application database, but you will also get the infrastructure level on the same pipeline. So that means each service, I can just drop it and recreate it whenever I want. So I can create the service, I can create the database, then I start the flyway, and I start the application at in the end. Where is Octopus? Okay, dashboard. So it was the build number. Okay. 33 with a develop branch. And as you can see here on Octopus, it's here. Okay, not any. Okay. Does anyone scan? Oh, it's here, down here, and that means on my server, it's already here. So this is a flyway table, a meta table, and you can see. Sorry. It was applied just now. Okay. So how can I put this on the next environment that it is the Azure environment? As you can see, sorry for that. Now it's just a promotion mirror. So changing my deploy now. And I give everything that he needs over here. So it will connect to Azure and create the service, and will deploy each service there. It will take some time. Okay. And of course, it will fail. So deployment pipelines, it's all about that. It's all to identify what fails. Most of the people think it's for success. Yeah, deployment pipelines, it's built it allows to have success on building software. But the real thing is it's about failing. The deployment pipeline should help you to find that fail and tell you what is wrong, and that way you just fix it. Is there any questions while this is deploying? Yeah, sure.
The one thing with flyway that I always find frustrating is the number of the scripts.
The number.
Yeah, so
You mean the versioning?
the version.
Okay.
Yeah, so one I would love to have, because I have to have
out of, you have, you mean out of order?
Out of the, yeah, the migrations, it'll just apply them.
By order.
Yeah, but if it's got version 1.4, and then it finds version 1.3 hasn't been applied, instead of apply 1.3. I'd love to have that switched off, but I don't know how to do that with branching. So if someone has a...
Or you wanted to switch on the out of order feature,
I want to switch it off. I want to make it so that it only applies
the correct order. So you just to go to configuration.
I don't know, but how do I, if you've got any way of doing that so that if someone has a branch, so if we've got two developers,
Mm-hmm.
one writes script 1.4,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes out, but someone has already written script 1.3.
So you means what you can do, so you have 1.1 and then 1.4, then someone just wrote 1.3 and it's ignored by Flyway, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do with that 1.3?
Well, I still want it run, but I kind of want it moved to the front. So say there's two for each branch is created.
You can switch it on out of order, but it can be very dangerous
Yes, that's
because it will get all things that is out of order. So you cannot say execute only this. So in that case, what I do, it's to change, to move.
okay. So
Yeah, if you can. It depends. Always depends. If I have to move, what I have in front of that change. So if I can move to down, okay. If it's not, you have to. If you have to change a lot of scripts, you have to rethink the thing. Yeah. So it's taking some time. More questions, please? You mean the state approach?
yeah.
This scenario, or it's mainly because it's the main point here is it's the way we bring it, we forge the changes for the database. So if I had the different people working on the same database in different teams in different locations. So with the resource that we have, we thought what we knew this migrations approach, it was the best approach for us. So we went, we did a path where we put the migrations smaller and smaller because of the merging conflicts. What you say is, I can do this, just wait, I get that state and I put that state on the target environment, right? But still, on the deployment pipeline, you have to approve that state because you have to trust on your automatic generator of scripts. So it's the whole thing, it relies on the moment you decide to have a migrations or a state approach.
Still, so the older your database is, so the more change scripts you create, you have to create a new version of that database. It's going to take longer to provision.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what I said is we take to a mix, a hybrid approach. If I need to rebase, I go to, it's like cleaning your record and start with I do that with the state approach. And that way I start with migrations.
You get to a point where you've suddenly got hundreds of change scripts.
Yeah, so imagine if you're doing, I don't know, 2 changes per week, 2 changes per month, I don't know. That is not a problem. But if you have, like I did, 200 scripts per day, it can be when you're trying to set up a new environment. So what we did, we went to a state approach. So I want this state on this environment and put it like that. So it's like each moment you have to choose a better solution for you. Okay, let me just refresh. Oh, it's taking so much time. Okay, let me just refresh this. Okay, the server is already created. Let's hope So this talk and this demo, it's the main point here is to prove that database don't live in a different world that application. So if you go to a state, independent if you go to a state or that migration approach, you can always put in your pipeline the database. So it's all that's it. The DevOps approach to integrate to see the whole system as possible. So in this approach, we have database, application, and also the infrastructure. So let me hope this go in front. Does anyone is using database as service from Azure? Oh, that is the database. Okay, just to I have 5 minutes. I hope this helps me because I want to. Okay. So this fails because I have to add the rule to the SQL Server. Not the SQL Server, but the Azure Server. Okay, I will add, I will save, and that's it. And then I just try again. Okay, should be faster now, because since I'm using incremental way, so this step you will see, okay, the database and the server is already created. I don't need to do anything, so I skip it. And then we'll apply the rest of the steps. So I should just, so let me just cancel this and try again without that. So it's already created. Come on, skip. Okay. 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 This is the view. It's like you are using the command line in your machine. This feels the same. And then you'll apply the 5 migrations. And then he goes to set up the application next. So while he set up, so I would just finish this. So in the end, the deployment pipeline, it's a mix between the cultural and a technical tool that we set up that allows us to manage the changes that we need to do, database level, application level, and ideally also the infrastructure level. In the way, so I could look to your pipeline. I'm able to say the way you produce software. So that's my focus here. And why DevOps way? So by including database, you are just increasing your flow visibility. So you can also see what happens in the database. You're also increasing the feedback when things got wrong when you are deploying to database, and you are sharing your knowledge crossing the team. And that's it. Questions? More? And okay, it's already deployed. If I go to Azure, I have here application. I just click it, please. I will just URL and press open. Okay, these are the reading stuff that I used to get inspiration of. Refactoring the database tells us all about how to change things at the database, continuous integration, deliver, and the DevOps parts. And okay, if I do this, API/values. I get the values. If I go to the database members, I will get the members that are on my database. Okay, we just finished. Okay, I finished the demo. If you have more questions or if you want to talk about, please feel free. If not, you release it. Yeah.